As we speak today, Iran's role in the Middle East war is no more that of a proxy. Economic experts and industry believes that a full-blown war between two big powers in the Middle East, Israel and Iran, will have serious economic consequences for the entire world. What makes the problem peculiar is not just the two countries, but various factions and countries backing them indirectly. Just a Cold War between the East and the West? Not anymore. Let's start with the global markets. South Korea declined 1.2% as we spoke. Japan declined 2.2%. The German DAX by 0.25%. And Indian market is already down by almost 2% since today morning. Major indexes across the world are already experiencing a downward trend. The exception, of course, being China, because the country recently unleashed stimulus like reducing mortgage rates and cutting key interest rates. But that's a different story. The escalating conflict in the Middle East is expected to increase global inflation, introducing fresh uncertainty and challenge to the US Fed Reserve's agenda for rate cuts. Rate cuts which have just begun after almost a 2-year hiatus. An escalating war produces more supply constraints. Supply of goods, oil, gas, which Middle East is a prime supplier. This in turn raises inflation. Like in case of earlier wars like Russia, Ukraine or Gaza, if this new front of war is prolonged, it would jeopardize rate cuts agenda of all the central bankers across the world. Because the Fed will be averse to making the same mistake again. High supply side constraints and low interest rates. A combination of which leads to high inflation, economic slowdown, but this may lead to low availability of capital this time. And we have seen how that plays out. Job cuts, low spending, recession. We are not trying to scare you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reality of the modern world where everything is interconnected. The world is already experiencing a slowdown in one way or another. This war would escalate economic problems for the markets. Let's come to oil now. Now, oil prices have risen for the third day on Thursday, with Brent crude rising towards $75 a barrel. A sharp rise in oil prices may hinder central banks' rate-cutting trajectory again, as higher inflation could pose challenges to economic recovery. Now, Israel's retaliation towards Iran could include targeting Iranian oil production facilities, among other strategic sites. This was reported by various media outlets. Now, on Wednesday, Iran said its missile attack on Israel was over, barring further provocation. It added that any Israeli response to its attack would be met with widespread destruction. Now, an attack on Iran's oil infrastructure could also provoke Tehran to respond with a strike on Saudi oil facilities, because Saudi in this case is a proxy war substitute, similar to the one conducted in 2019 on crude processing facilities there. Now, wars can be detrimental to free trade and certainty in the world. Let's come to gold now. Gold is the original currency, the biggest hedge and the safest asset in the world. Whenever economic, political or climate uncertainties rise, demand for gold as the safest haven also rises. Now, gold touched a new high of 78,300 per 10 grams on Wednesday due to safe haven buying amidst escalating tension in the Middle East and lower US bond yields. Market participants are already expecting the yellow metal to rise further if global geopolitical uncertainties worsen. Now, prices of gold rose by 1,500 rupees per 10 grams compared to Tuesday. Bottom line is, the commodities and global markets would be severely impacted, and eventually all this burden of long-term slowdown and recession and inflation would fall down on the world's middle class. Any war across the world eventually falls on the middle class's shoulders, and they have to pay through taxes, through higher rates with the future generation. That's all from this episode. We shall see you in the next episode.